What you didn't see behind closed doors at the White House yesterday was a private meeting between the president, Attorney General Eric Holder, and key civil rights leaders. The power pack that was there debated how best to protect minority voters after the high court batted down portions of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. One participant told Politico the president said this, quote, "When you think about it, this is small bore stuff compared to the lynchings and shootings and killings that happened 50 years ago. Ultimately, this is within our power to change." Joining me now is Democratic strategist and pollster Margie Omero and MSNBC political contributor Robert Traynham, assistant dean at Georgetown University and a former senior advisor to President Bush. Always great to see both of you. Margie, is this small bore stuff, as the president said?
Well, I think it's appropriate for the president to put it in context. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that African Americans trying to register a vote were told, well, you can if you can guess how many bubbles there are in this bar of soap. And so we've moved a long way from that. That doesn't mean, however, and I think that's the point the president made in that meeting, that this is unimportant, that the vote suppression movement that is going on in a lot of states around the country, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Arizona, Texas, is something that we should really be addressing. It's something that's really important. We should be making voting more convenient, something that we want more to encourage participation, not discourage participation. And I think that's what he was talking about.
Robert, you had about, what, a dozen activists in that meeting behind closed doors. What have you heard about how things went specifically with regard to the difficulty or ease based on what they accomplished?
Well, I heard that the president was very much, to Marjorie's point, was very much putting things into context, very historical, making sure that everyone knew exactly what the Supreme Court did. And let's be clear about what the Supreme Court did. What they said was, look, the onus is on you as the voter to be able to differentiate between whether or not you're being discriminated against. And if, in fact, you are, you need to alert the proper authorities. And so I think what I heard from the president's remarks, based on what I've read, and based on what people told me when they were in the room, was that the president said, yeah, you know what, this is a big deal, quote unquote, that this is a step back. However, the onus, again, is on us to be able to make sure that we hold everyone accountable. And to go back to the Supreme Court for a second here, I think that's what the Supreme Court was saying is, look, we all have skin in the game here. We're all educated adults, or at least informed adults, and thus in the process we have to make sure that our voting rights and that all of our rights are protected, but there's an onus on you to be able to speak up if in fact you feel as though is that your civil rights or your voting rights have been discriminated against.
It also said, right, that give us more modern data, that the data that has been used for Section 4 was outdated. Margie, National Urban League President Mark Morial, you might already know this, he thinks lawmakers will be willing to work on new legislation in a bipartisan fashion. That was his intimation there. Is he overly optimistic here, or is he on target?
Well, I certainly hope so. I mean, it'd be nice to see some bipartisanship on something as American as voting. That would be great. I mean, my early thoughts is that we're seeing a lot of Republicans hoping this just goes away in Congress and leave it for states to work on, and we'll see.
But they've been fairly silent on the matter so far.
Right, so we'll see how things go. I mean, you know, this is the climate that we're in now, where silence is seen as a good sign, as opposed to people saying the Voting Rights Act is horrible, we should get rid of it, although there are some people who actually say that. So hopefully people will be able to come together. Certainly, if Republicans want to learn from the lessons of 2012 and take the results of their autopsy into account, they would be on the side of more voting and collaboration on this.
So silence may be golden, is what you're saying here. You know, Robert, Eric Holder, he's talked about a defining moment for him when he was speaking at the LBJ library, and you know, Holder looked up at a TV screen and it was flashing old photos. Here's one of them right there. He saw a picture of LBJ signing the Voting Rights Act, and to the president's right at that time was his sister-in-law, who walked past Governor George Wallace to integrate the University of Alabama in this picture right here. Holder didn't know that she had witnessed the signing, and he said that seeing that photo was quite pivotal for him. So when you look at this, Robert, this is personal for the nation's first black attorney general and first black president. How does that help their objectives and what they want to get done? Does this help them get something done?
That's an interesting question. First of all, the job of the Attorney General is not for it to be personal. I mean, to kind of put that aside for a second. However, he's human. He's African American. You did put in context as being the first African American Attorney General. So for him, clearly this is a mission. Clearly this is the cause. But the truth is that this should be a mission and a cause for every single eligible person to vote and not to be discriminated against, no matter who you are, no matter what your background is. That is the ideals of the Constitution. And obviously we are still striving to be a more perfect union. We're not there yet. But regardless regardless of whether you're black or white or gay or straight or a woman, whatever the case may be, you should have the right to vote. You should do so you should be able to do so in a non-intimidating manner, and that's what we should do, regardless of whether you're Republican or Democrat.
Robert Trainum, as always, thank you. Margie Omero, you too. You guys have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
Checking the news feed this morning for